Hello, this is Fiona Cuthbertson coming from the pod to record another episode of Off the Cuff. This week we're lucky enough to have Lionel Zetter. Lionel has worked in both the House of Commons and Lords, in Conservative Central Office and as a lobbyist with a number of top public affairs agencies. A seasoned professional, he has been chairman of the Government Affairs Group, president of the Chartered Institute of Public Relations, was voted Public Affairs Personality of the Year by the readers of Public Affairs News in 2008, and in 2012 he received the PAN Outstanding Achievement Award. And finally, in all the spare time he has also written a number of books, including a recent novel, The Lobbyist, about the murky world of politics, which is just out in the shops now. Welcome, Lionel.
Thank you, Fiona. Pleasure to be on your podcast.
Thank you very much. So firstly, can you tell us a bit about how you ended up in lobbying?
Very simple, really. I went to university in the 1970s at Sussex, which was a very left-wing university, totally dominated by a bunch of Marxists, Maoists, Trotskyists, etc. The Conservative Association was on its knees. I picked it up, made it into a political force, started working for the 3 local Tory MPs. We had 3 Tories in Brighton at that stage, would you believe? And from there, went to work in the House of Commons, and the rest is history.
And what has been the most important piece of work you've undertaken in your career?
It would have to be the pro bono work I've been doing for the last 3 years on Ukraine. Have to give here credit to the late, great Francis Ingham, who set up the Ukraine Communication Support Network. Myself and a number of others have been working on that ever since, and it's earned me a place on the Russian government sanctions list, which I'm very proud of.
I'm not surprised. Have you ever undertaken work for a client where you didn't agree with the cause?
I think I can say no. There have been occasions where I feel neutral about it, neither enthused nor revolted, and that's just paying the bills. But on the whole, I have been lucky enough to be able to pick my clients and to work for clients who I like, admire, believe in, etc. So I've been lucky.
And what has been the most important lesson you've learned over your career so far?
Relationships are everything. I think that's true in any line of business, but in politics and public affairs, relationships are crucial. They are everything, the be all and the end all.
And what has been the highlight of your career?
Good question. Okay, well, no, it would have to be being elected in a contested election, president of the Chartered Institute of Public Relations. That was the highlight.
And how did you make sure that that election went your way?
I lobbied and I lobbied.
So you used all of your political nous in order to get that job. That's what you do, isn't it?
That's what you do. And, deploy your networks. And again, networks are part of what we do.
And what do you think is a common myth about being a lobbyist that's not the case?
Well, I think a lot of people think, A, that it's all glamorous, and B, that a lot of it is devious and underhand. Now, some of it is glamorous. You go to great events, you go to Parliament, you get to meet important people from the Prime Minister down. And yes, some of it is the dark arts. It is spinning, it's making the best of your client's case and their situation. But probably the man or woman in the street, the man or woman in the dog and duck, think that we are all miniature versions of Mandelson. There's a lot of research, there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of having to know about procedure. That's the hard yards, but it has to be done.
I mentioned earlier on that you've also worked for the Conservative Party, and that meant obviously that you could learn about party politics from the inside. So what insights did that give you that have helped you do your job?
As long as you can avoid being institutionalized, you can spot the drivers. If you work for a company, the driver is share price and profit. If you work for a political organization, there's fundraising, but it's all about the votes. And how do you position your party to garner the maximum votes without being untrue to your principles? And that's always been harder for Labour than for Conservatives. We don't have to bend our consciences out of shape once we come into government, which hopefully we will again. Labour have to go against a lot of their principles once they're in government.
Talking about Labour, we are now 1 year into a Labour government. So how have you found working with the opposite team?
I found it very difficult. you have to at least convey the impression that you admire and look up to the person you're lobbying. In the case of some Labour ministers, that's very hard to achieve. I think they came into government badly prepared. I think considering the number of MPs they have, there's a huge dearth of talent in the ministerial team. To be perfectly frank, since the election, I have spent most of my time working with Conservatives, Reform and the House of Lords. I have very little to do with the Labour government.
And talking of
No
reform...
doubt to their relief, I should say.
And talking of reform, what impact do you think they're having on how Parliament and politics works?
Colossal, enormous, huge. Disproportionate, considering they got 4 MPs, but they now have close on 1,000 councillors. Basically, Farage has made the weather for the last 15 years. It's an extraordinary achievement by an extraordinary man. I would never join Reform. I don't actually trust Farage that much, but his energy, his charm, his eloquence are hugely admirable, and he has made the weather.
And talking about the other things that you've been up to, you've recently written a novel, The Lobbyist. And so how much of this has been based on your own experience?
That is for the reader to find out. My stock answer is it's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 things that have happened to me and I've actually done. 1/3 things I've heard that have happened and believe that, and 1/3 pure fiction. But it's up to the readers, my colleagues and my family to work out which is which.
Very clever answer there. What is the particular moment that gave rise to this work?
The general election with Labour with a stonking majority. I think I realised at that time that my career as a lobbyist was coming to an end. Might as well put a full stop to it, and maybe that's what this book represents.
Did you show anyone your work as you were doing it?
Yes. A couple of trusted colleagues in the CIPR and the Enterprise Forum who I've known for decades, trust intrinsically, and who are working on their own novels. So we formed a little self-help group.
Sounds like a good thing to do. So what do you hope the readers are going to take away from your book, apart from a little bit of gossip?
I hope they will be entertained. I mean, it is written to be entertaining. You know, there's amusing bits, some sex, some violence, some intrigue. It's got it all. But, you know, it's up to them to work out and what they think is credible, what they think may have happened, and what is pure fiction. But first and foremost, it's a thriller. It's a page turner. It's a good read.
Absolutely. As Ian Dale said, I believe, in one of your reviews, that's quite a thing.
Indeed. And talking to relationships, Ian and I go back 30 years, from his original Politico bookshop to when he did his original vlogs, before he was a name, before he was everybody. And that's what relationships are all about. If he thought the book was rubbish, he'd have said nothing, but he genuinely enjoyed it, and I'm very pleased and relieved.
And what's the one thing that you wish you'd known when you started writing it?
How long the editing process would take. So I wrote it very quickly, and it's taken twice as long to be properly edited as it has to write it. And I'll know better next time.
What about your memoirs? Do you think there'll be a moment to lift the lid and change that ratio from 1/3 to 1/3 to 1/3 to 100%?
Probably not. I think a few people might take exception to my revelations, shall we say. So, no, I think we can rule that out.
I was going to ask next, you did, that there would have to be anyone you would feel you need to warn of the contents, but you're saying that their secrets will be well held.
I think so.
What advice would you give a first-time author?
Have fun. It's great fun. Write about what you know. That is the real cliche, but seriously, you know, if you're a doctor, write about medical things. If you're a soldier, write about war. If you're a lobbyist, write about lobbying and politics, because the two are intrinsically linked. You can't separate one from the other. And nowadays you have such a revolving door between being a SPAD, being a lobbyist, being an MP. They're interchangeable. The skills are identical. It's the best thing I have done for years.
So finally, do you think there'll be another book coming?
Yep, I'm working on the sequel already. I had to go back and rewrite part of the first one because the publisher told me not to kill off certain characters because they would be needed in the sequel.
Wow.
And it's going to be a trilogy, so there will be a book 3 as well.
Excellent. Everybody's heard it here first. So thank
and
you.
Netflix, if you're listening, this book was written for you. You know where to contact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with that, we come to the end of another interview. Thank you, Lionel, for coming on to speak to us today about the world of lobbying and political maneuvering, as well as the new book. Thank you to the listeners of the podcast. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment. If you think it's worth coming back, please like and subscribe. If you feel that you need something to tide you over to the next podcast, please buy Lionel's book, The Lobbyist. It is available everywhere, or my book, Party Games, on Amazon. And on that note, I'll see you next time. Hope you have a good week, one and all.